Rancher. She's too weak to beg, the little girl said. Then he opened the trunk and froze. They're not coming back. The voice came from inside the abandoned cabin, small and certain as death. Tom Hartley froze on the rotting porch steps, his hand still reaching for the rusted door handle. He'd been tracking his missing cattle for 3 hours through these woods, following hoofprints that led nowhere and ended at nothing. Who's in there? Just me? Come out where I can see you. You won't hurt me. No, I won't hurt you. The door creaked open and a girl stepped out, maybe 8 years old, with tangled brown hair and clothes that looked like she'd been sleeping rough for weeks. Her eyes held something that made Tom's chest tighten. Knowledge. The kind children shouldn't have. What's your name? Lucy. Lucy what? Just Lucy. Tom crouched down to her eye level, keeping his voice gentle. Where are your parents, Lucy? Gone. Gone where? Same place as your cattle. Something cold crawled up Tom's spine. What do you mean? They take things. People. Animals. Doesn't matter. Lucy sat down on the porch step, like this was the most normal conversation in the world. They took my mama 2 weeks ago. Told me to wait here till they came back for me. Who told you that? The men with badges. Tom's blood stopped moving. Police? Some. Not all. Some wear suits. Some drive big trucks. Lucy picked at a scab on her knee with mechanical precision. They said I was too little to remember faces. Too little to matter. Lucy, we need to get you somewhere safe. Nowhere's safe. That's what Mama said before they put her in the trunk. What trunk? Lucy stood up and walked toward the tree line, without looking back. I'll show you. Tom followed her deeper into the woods, his boots crunching on dead leaves while Lucy moved silent as a ghost. She led him through brush and bramble, like she'd walked this path 100 times before. How long have you been out here? Since Mama didn't come home. What about food? Water? Creeks that way. Berries grow everywhere if you know where to look. Lucy stopped beside a massive oak tree, its trunk scarred with old initials and bullet holes. They left the car here. Thought nobody would find it. Tom saw it then. A black sedan hidden behind fallen branches and covered with a tarp that had seen better decades. The license plates were missing. Rust ate through the bumper like cancer. Lucy, maybe you should wait here while I... She's in there. Who's in there? My mama. She's too weak to beg anymore. Tom's hand shook as he approached the trunk. The metal was dented from the inside, fingernails scratches marking desperate attempt to escape. He found the trunk release and pulled. The smell hit him first. Then he saw her, a woman in her 30s, brown hair like Lucy's, wearing a waitress uniform from the diner in town. Her eyes were open but empty. Bruises covered her arms and throat. On her wrist, a hospital bracelet with a name he recognized. Sarah Chun, the missing woman from the posters plastered all over the county courthouse. Jesus Christ. Mama said not to take the Lord's name in vain. Tom staggered backward, bile rising in his throat. Sarah Chun had disappeared 3 months ago. The sheriff had organized search parties. The newspapers had run stories. The governor had offered a reward. Lucy, how do you know about this? I was hiding in the trees when they brought her here. They thought she was dead already, but she kept moving, kept trying to get out. Lucy's voice never changed tone, flat as a weather report. They laughed about it. Who laughed? Sheriff Morrison. That fat man who owns a bank. The one with a fancy car, who comes to town on Sundays. Tom knew those men. Had shaken their hands at church barbecues. Had voted for Morrison 3 times running. Had borrowed money from Patterson's bank to keep his ranch afloat. Lucy, we have to call police. They are the police. Not all of them. There are good people. Good people don't last long around here. Tom pulled out his cell phone. No signal. Of course. They were miles from the nearest tower, deep in woods that seemed to swallow sound and hope in equal measure. We need to get back to town. I have friends. People who will listen. They won't believe you. They'll believe the evidence. Lucy looked at him with those 2 old eyes, and Tom saw something that might have been pity. Evidence disappears. People forget. That's how it works. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small digital camera, the kind children get for birthdays. But sometimes people take pictures. Tom's hands trembled as he took the camera. The display showed dozens of photos. Men in uniforms, men in suits, men he'd known his whole life, standing over bodies, laughing over graves, counting money in back rooms. "Lucy, where did you get this?" "Mama gave it to me before they took her. Said someday someone would need to see." The woods around them felt suddenly alive with watching eyes and listening ears. Tom understood now why his cattle had disappeared, why Lucy had been left alive in that cabin, why no one had found Saracen despite months of searching. "We have to go. Now." "Where?" "Somewhere they can't follow." Lucy looked back at the trunk where her mother lay still and silent. "She's too weak to beg anymore." Tom grabbed Lucy's hand and pulled her away from the trunk, away from her mother's broken body, and the smell of death that clung to everything in these woods. They ran through the trees, branches tearing at their clothes, Lucy's small feet somehow keeping pace with his longer strides. "Where are we going?" "My truck. Then we figure out who we can trust." "Nobody. There has to be somebody." Lucy's grip tightened on his hand. That's what Mama thought. They reached Tom's pickup truck, where he'd left it on the old logging road. He started the engine and drove toward town, his mind racing faster than the speedometer. The camera sat heavy in his jacket pocket, its weight pressing against his ribs like a loaded gun. "Lucy, tell me about the pictures." Mama worked at the diner. She saw things, heard things. Lucy stared out the window at the passing trees. Men talking about places to put people where nobody would look. "What kind of places?" "Old wells, mine shafts, bottom of the quarry." Her voice stayed flat, emotionless. "They have a system." Tom's hands gripped the steering wheel until his knuckles went white. "What kind of system?" "They pick people who won't be missed. Drifters, runaways, girls like Mama who work late shifts and walk home alone. But people did miss your mother. There were search parties." "For show. Sheriff Morrison organized them, didn't he?" Tom's blood turned to ice water. Morrison had led every search, had been the one to suggest they stop looking after 2 weeks, had been the one to tell reporters that Sarah Chun had probably left town voluntarily. He knew where she was the whole time. He put her there. Tom pulled over on the side of the road, his hands shaking too hard to drive safely. He pulled out the camera and scrolled through the photos. Image after image of horror. Men in sheriff's uniforms standing over open graves. Bank President Patterson, counting cash in what looked like the back room of his office. Mayor Williams shaking hands with men Tom didn't recognize. Briefcases changing hands. "Lucy, how long has this been going on?" "Always. Mama said her mama used to tell stories about girls who disappeared. Said it was like a curse on the county." "Not a curse. A business." Lucy looked at him with those ancient eyes. "Same thing." Tom kept scrolling through the photos. More faces he recognized. The county commissioner, the police chief, the judge who presided over every major trial for the past 15 years. These photos could bring down the entire power structure, if anyone lived long enough to show them. "What do you mean?" Mama tried to go to the FBI, called the state police, even drove to the next county over to talk to their sheriff. Lucy's voice cracked for the first time since he'd met her. They all made phone calls. Calls back here. Tom understood. The network stretched beyond their county lines. Had roots that went deeper than he'd imagined. That's how they found out about the camera. Mama hid it before they came for her. Made me promise to give it to someone who would use it right. "How do you know I'm that someone?" "Because you threw up when you saw her. Bad men don't throw up." Tom's radio crackled to life. Sheriff Morrison's voice filled the truck cab, calm and authoritative. "Tom Hartley, this is Sheriff Morrison. Need you to call in when you get this message. Got some questions about your missing cattle." Lucy went rigid in her seat. "They know." "Know what?" "That you found us." Tom turned off the radio and started driving again, faster this time. "How could they know?" "They watch everything. Know everything. Mama said they had people everywhere. Even if that's true, we just have to get to someone outside their reach. Like who? Tom thought hard. Every official he could name had connections to the county power structure. Every law enforcement agency had lines of communication that led back to Morrison, state capital, media, federal authorities. Mama tried all that. Maybe she didn't have the right evidence. Maybe she didn't have the right friends. Tom's phone buzzed. Text message from an unknown number. Stop driving. Pull over. We need to talk. Lucy saw the message and her face went pale. They have your number. Everyone has my number. I run a business. Not everyone knows you're in a truck with me right now. Tom's stomach dropped. She was right. Someone was watching them. Someone with resources and reach that extended far beyond what small-town corruption should allow. Lucy, is there anywhere safe? Anywhere they haven't looked? The old church, past the cemetery. Been abandoned for 20 years. Why there? Mama said it was the only place they were afraid to go. Afraid of what? Ghosts, guilt, things they buried that keep trying to dig their way back up. Tom turned toward the cemetery, driving through the growing dusk as shadows lengthened across the road. Behind them, headlights appeared in his mirror. 2 vehicles, keeping pace but not closing distance. They're following us. They followed Mama, too, right up until the end. We're not going to end up like your mother. How do you know? Tom looked at the camera in Lucy's small hands, at the evidence that could destroy decades of carefully constructed power. Because this time, they won't be able to make us disappear quietly. They made everybody else disappear. Everybody else was alone. Lucy studied his face in the fading light. You think 2 people are harder to disappear than 1? I think 2 people with proof are harder to silence than 1 person with stories. The headlights behind them grew closer. As Tom pulled into the old cemetery, gravel crunching under his tires like broken bones. The abandoned church loomed ahead, its steeple pointing toward a sky that had turned the color of dried blood. Lucy clutched the camera against her chest like a shield. They're not going to let us leave here. I know. You scared? Terrified? Good. Scared people fight harder. Tom parked behind the church and helped Lucy out of the truck. The pursuing vehicle stopped at the cemetery gates, engines idling, waiting. How many? 3 cars. Maybe 10 men. Too many to fight. Too many to let us walk away. Lucy led him to the church's back door, rotted wood that gave way with a gentle push. Inside, moonlight streamed through broken windows, casting shadows that moved like living things across overturned pews and a collapsed altar. Lucy, I need you to hide. Where? Basement. Behind the furnace. Stay there no matter what you hear. What about you? I'm going to make a phone call. Tom pulled out his cell phone and climbed the bell tower stairs, hoping for better signal reception. At the top, he could see the men getting out of their cars. Sheriff Morrison led them, his badge catching the moonlight. Bank President Patterson followed, along with faces Tom recognized from town council meetings and church barbecues. His phone showed 2 bars. He dialed 911. Emergency services. This is Tom Hartley. I'm at the old church past Hillside Cemetery. I have evidence of multiple murders involving Sheriff Morrison and other county officials. Sir, can you repeat that? Sheriff Morrison has been killing people. I have photographs. I have a witness. Sir, I'm going to transfer you to the sheriff's department. No, don't transfer me anywhere. Contact the FBI. Contact the state police. Anyone but local authorities. The line went dead. Tom stared at his phone, understanding finally settling in his gut like poison. The network reached even here, into dispatch centers and emergency services. Below, Morrison's voice carried through night air. Tom Hartley, we know you're in there. Come on out, Tom. Let's talk this through. We just want to have a conversation. Tom descended the stairs and walked the front door, stepping out onto the church steps where he could see them all clearly. 10 men with badges and guns, and the kind of confidence that came from decades of getting away with murder. I already know what you want to talk about. Do you now? You want the camera? Morrison smiled, the expression cold as winter mornings. Smart man. You want Lucy? The girl's been through enough trauma. Needs proper care. You mean she needs to disappear like her mother? Patterson stepped forward, his banker's suit incongruous among the tombstones. Tom, you're a reasonable man, a businessman. We can work something out. What kind of something? Your ranch. We could arrange for your debts to disappear. Fresh start. In exchange for your silence, the camera, the girl. Tom felt the weight of Lucy's trust pressing down on his shoulders. She was hiding in the basement below, counting on him to be better than the men who had failed her mother. What makes you think I'd take that deal? Because the alternative is joining the girl's mother. You gonna kill me right here? On consecrated ground. Morrison laughed, the sound echoing off weathered headstones. Tom, this ground stopped being consecrated the day we buried our first secret here. How many secrets? Enough to fertilize every grave in this cemetery. Tom reached into his jacket and pulled out the camera, holding it up so they could see it clearly. You want this? Very much. Come and take it. Morrison drew his gun, and the other men followed suit. 10 weapons pointed at Tom's chest. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. It's already as hard as it's going to get. Tom raised the camera above his head and brought it down hard against the church steps. Plastic cracked. Electronics scattered. The memory card spun across the ground like a silver coin. You just destroyed your only leverage. Did I? Tom smiled and pulled out his phone, holding it up so they could see the screen. Video recording. Red light blinking. Been streaming to 3 different news outlets for the past 10 minutes. Everything you said. Everything you admitted. Morrison's face went white. That's impossible. Technology's amazing these days. Even a rancher can figure out live streaming. Patterson raised his gun. Doesn't matter. Dead men don't give interviews. But little girls do. Lucy's voice came from the church doorway behind Tom. She held up a second camera, identical to the first. Mama taught me to always have a backup. Lucy, I told you to hide. I did, but hiding time's over. Morrison swung his gun toward Lucy, and Tom launched himself off the church steps. He tackled the sheriff as gunshots erupted around them, rolling across the ground as Patterson and the others opened fire. Tom felt bullets wind past his head, heard them crack against tombstones and church walls. Lucy disappeared back inside the church as sirens wailed in the distance. Real sirens this time. Federal sirens. Morrison struggled beneath Tom's weight, trying to bring his gun around. Tom grabbed the sheriff's wrist and slammed it against a gravestone until the weapon flew away into the darkness. It's over, Morrison. Nothing's over. We own this county. Not anymore. The sirens grew louder, and Tom saw federal vehicles pouring through the cemetery gates. FBI tactical units surrounded the remaining men, who dropped their weapons and raised their hands. Lucy emerged from the church, still holding the backup camera. She walked over to where Tom sat, pinning Morrison to the ground. Is it really over? Yeah, Lucy, it's really over. What happens now? Tom looked at the girl who had trusted him with the truth, who had risked everything to seek justice for her mother. Now we go home. Where's home? Wherever you want it to be.